The way I describe him is he's not going to be the first guy. He's not going to hit you first. He's going to hit you last. You know, you don't want to make a fight with him, and he's not going to be his first impulse to do that. But if you push him to that place, then the warrior comes out and it's game on, and you don't want any part of that. You know, but I always try to approach him as a thinking man first. He's trying to figure things out before just smashing him.
Welcome back to Thinking Critical. This is Wes, and I don't know if everybody realizes it, but it's the 80th anniversary of Hawkman on January 15th, and I wanted to talk about the character. Obviously, Eric Breen joined the channel not too long ago as we kind of wrapped up Robert Venditti's run, and then how wonderful it was, his kind of exploration of the character, kind of some of the things he did with him. But I wanted to go a little bit deeper with the character, and obviously there's only one source that you'd want to go to. It is Tim Board, the man that is the man behind the Hawkworld blog spot, where you can find all the history of the character and tons of wonderful articles about Hawkman and Hawkgirl. And obviously here with me is fellow expat Tim Board. How you doing?
Hey, hi Wes. Thank you for inviting me, and I'm always happy to talk about Hawkman, so happy to be here.
I discovered Hawkman through Robert Venditti. He's my favorite comic writer. Most people that view the channel probably know that. So when I found out he was writing Hawkman, I knew Jeff Johns had done the last one before that. Johns is another one of my favorite writers. So I went back and kind of read up on what Jeff Johns had done, found your website, kind of read up on the history, and you know, probably not to the level you have. You know, I don't have my own website or anything, but I certainly kind of fell in love with the character and just kind of what he represents and everything. When did you discover Hawkman?
This was back in 1977 when I was, I think, 13 years old. And I just happened to come across a DC calendar. And on the back was a picture of the Justice League with 7 or 8 Justice League characters on it. And Hawkman immediately caught my attention. He just looked so different from all the other, superheroes. He just the wings and the mace and bare chest, he just looked just completely different. And I've always had a fascination with superheroes that can fly. And, Hawkman just represents flight to me. And it started from there, and just kind of, it kind of waned here and there, because of different things. But really got back into it several years ago, and it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. So unfortunately, in my opinion, Hawkman should probably be getting a lot more love from DC Comics, just Warner Media, whatever, because he's a cool looking character. He's got a very striking design. He looks very heroic and like that, but he hasn't always gotten the publicity. So if you want to be like a big time Hawkman fan, you have to be pretty dedicated. Like go out and find it,
Yeah, that's true. A lot of times I'll just suddenly show up, and like
Dark Knight's Death Metal.
Yeah, like one panel here or some story there, and a lot of times I won't know about it, but somebody that's a member of Hawkworld or something will say, "Hey, we saw Hawkman here," and it's kind of like been like that for a lot of the years I followed him, because a lot of the times he hasn't had a series out. I think all the writers like to use him because he keeps showing up in all kinds of different places for just for whatever purpose or reason, because he's just that kind of a character.
What is it about Hawkman? Just besides, obviously, you were drawn to the character by the looks. I think that it's cool that he's an archaeologist, but there's a time factor to where part of his character is, traveling through time, being reincarnated, but he's so interested in the past, which he's already, essentially experienced. Makes a really interesting character.
Yeah, well, when I first got into Hawkman, the reincarnation angle or all that wasn't really focused on. The thing that was most, I guess, prominent about him was that he was an alien from Thanagar. He was just always going back and forth between Earth and Thanagar, and he had this cool, spaceship. And that was one thing that really caught my attention. And the other thing was his relationship with Hawkgirl. And back in the 70s and 80s, I guess, a lot of the superhero couples were always like fighting and squabbling and breaking up. And I don't know, just seemed to be having their issues. But Hawkman and Hawkgirl, and she later changed her name to Hawkwoman, but they were just a solid superhero couple, and just really equals in what they were doing, and that really appealed to me as well.
For some reason, they keep wanting to kind of like separate the characters now, which doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to me. It's like it feels like they're kind of intrinsically connected to each other, and that's kind of part of the backstory. That was like the one complaint, like real complaint I had about Jeff Johns' run was it was a new version of Hawkwoman. It was no longer Shira, it was Kendra, and it like made the relationship odd.
Yeah, well, when that series first came out, they brought back Hawkman. He had been gone for about 5 years, but they brought him back, and when he came back, the whole thing with Kendra was revealed as well. Her backstory is really just crazy, but and the fact that she wasn't sure if her destiny was with him or not. At first, it was kind of an interesting angle because we never seen that before. And, Hawkman was trying to accept the fact that he had winter all over again. But it just kept dragging on and on and on. And it was just back and forth. And it got old after a while, I have to admit.
I think, initially it adds something. And then it was like, okay, it's time to resolve this. And get things kind of back to the way they should be.
Mm-hmm.
But
that's what Diddy did in the recent series. So it was very, very satisfying to see that. Yeah,
that's crazy what Robert Venditti did. That's one of the reasons I like Robert Venditti. He has great original stuff. Like if you read Surrogates, but a lot of the characters or ideas that he works with, a lot of current writers I think like to take the core components of the character and then throw out what they don't want, and they don't want to kind of accept it. And Robert Venditti, he tends to accept all of it and work with that.
Yeah, he does.
Out this character.
I think he's really into history and studying of the backstory of characters and stories and stuff. He's put out some comics that are, about the history from World War II and everything. And I think when he got Hawkman, he said he worked from the newest stuff and then just worked back from there, went backwards, studying all the just all the stories and different versions and trying to figure out how he could connect them all. And I think he was also really wanting to include Hawkwoman in the series right from the beginning. And I just did a interview with him about a month ago, I think. And he said that, that was his plan in the most recent series to have Hawkman and Hawkwoman together right from the issue number 1.
But she was in Justice League, right?
Right. They were wanting to use her in the Justice League. So they told him that he couldn't use her. So he had to wait. And then when that whole, what was it, Year of the Villain, the infected Secret Six thing, when that happened, then he worked in kind of that into the whole thing to bring her back, which I think he did a pretty good job considering what he had to work with.
It was unfortunate that his run did not get, it really got no marketing, really publicity from DC. Most of the reason that people were even aware of the series is just because of, people like you or even here on my channel, I would kind of sing the praises of Hawkman. But I will be honest, the Year of the Villain stuff really felt like it derailed it.
To be honest, I don't want to be too critical of anything, but I think Venditti had his plan. He had like a 12-issue plan, then a 24-issue plan, and a 40-issue plan and stuff like that. And then he was able to get through the first 12 issues with Brian Hitch. So that was good. But then right after that had a really awesome one-story issue number 13. Excellent. And then that whole thing started, and there were some good parts about that. I mean, I enjoyed the Sky Tyrant as a character, and I was thinking that maybe they'd figure out a way to split them, and that Sky Tyrant would be showing up again to fight Hawkman face to face in the future and stuff. And he also was able to bring in the Shade, introduce a new friendship there. I thought that was really interesting. So it wasn't all bad, but it kind of went on too long.
Yeah, it was no fault of Venditti's. Like they,
right.
you gotta participate in the year of the villain. I think he did the best he could, but you could tell that wasn't what he was doing with the character.
Right. Yeah. You could tell he was working with it, trying to, work his story into the whole thing. And he did. I thought, like I said, he did a very good job.
It was kind of odd. Hawkman ended up ending at issue 29, I believe, correct?
Yeah, 29.
Man, it's almost like disappointing. Why didn't they just end it at issue 30 and give it a proper 80th anniversary issue?
I don't know. It's just, DC does things I don't understand, but I guess it just didn't work into their time frame. I don't know.
Well, I guess this month is Future State. It would be weird if you had a Hawkman issue nothing else is being released. It's mainline continuity. It would have to be Black Label, I guess.
Yeah, I guess. Well, on February 9th, there's kind of a Valentine's Day issue coming out, and Hawkman and Hawkwoman are in that. The current Hawkman and Hawkwoman are going to be featured in that story. So I don't know. I mean, they could have done it if they wanted to, I guess. I don't know their reasons. They're going through a whole bunch of stuff right now anyway, so.
Absolutely, we're covering it heavily here on the channel. There's a lot of change happening at DC Comics. They're kind of changing their focus from the traditional direct comic market. Floppy comics. There's been a lot of growth as far as the comic industry and YA graphic novels, and they're kind of trying to entice that audience to kind of come over and check out their products. We'll see if that works out for them, but it does suck. Being a fan of a Hawkman, unless there's a movie or a TV show, you might not get a Hawkman story for a while. The good news is we do know Hawkman is going to be in the Black Adam movie with The Rock. So hopefully we'll get some JSA or something with him.
Yeah. Well, that JSA, comic has been kind of teased since last 5 years.
Yeah.
So I'm not really holding my breath on that one until it actually happens. I'll be pleasantly surprised when it does. And I'm not real sure about the movie either. Because, to be honest, it's a Black Adam movie. It's The Rock's movie, and they're gonna make in the movie to make him look good. Mm-hmm. So my fear is that they're gonna use Hawkman as, I don't want to do kind of a stepping stone or what, and we get to see Black Adam beat him to a pulp and make him look bad while making Black Adam look good, and I don't know how much that's going to help Hawkman's image in the public's eye. But I don't know. We don't know very many details about this series. It sounds like they're going to go with that Black Rain series that was in the JSA and Hawkman back in the mid 2000s. And if they do that, it would be interesting to see. But I don't know. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, the DCEU movie schedule is always really weird. You never know what's actually going to happen until it actually happens. You know what I mean? There's so much stuff they actually announce, and you just never hear about it again.
Yeah, they announce all this stuff, and then you hear nothing for a really long time. You're like, what's going on? And all of a sudden, it's canceled or it's changed or I don't know. So. And they haven't started shooting Black Adam yet. I've been down this road before. I wouldn't be surprised if they announced that it was, canceled or whatever. But I mean, they've already announced.
He's the world's biggest action hero, and he's been talking about it for 8 years, right?
He's been talking about this since what? At least 10 years. Yeah.
It was 8 or 10 years. It's been a long time.
I don't know. It's a cynic in me coming out, I guess. Absolutely. I've been burned so many times. I kick into defensive mode every time this comes up. But
absolutely.
Yeah.
So let's kind of bringing it back to Hawkman. Obviously, there's probably people viewing this video that they're interested in the character, and is there a specific place that you would suggest for new readers that are interested in Hawkman? Maybe they read part of Venditti stories or they read the whole thing, but they don't know exactly where to go back to. What's the best place to start with Hawkman?
Oh, well, really, the Venditti series is a good starting place because it just really explains the whole thing in the whole series. And for me, I think it's the best Hawkman series ever. So that's my number one place to go. Before that, Jeff Johns series started in 2002. It ran for 49 issues. Jeff Johns went up to, I think it was issue number 26, and then they had some writers, and then Jimmy Palmiotti and Justin Gray took over most of the series until the end. That was good. Again, the whole Kendra thing was a little bit annoying, but other than that, it was lots of fun. Tony Isabella's The Shadow War of Hawkman, and then the Volume 2 series back in the mid 80s. That is one of the best series that Hawkman has ever had. And I always tell people to read that one, especially the Shadow War of Hawkman. It's just a 4-issue series, but it's the relationship between Hawkman and Hawkwoman is just beautifully drawn. And I always enjoy going back to that one. I wish they'd make a trade of that, but they haven't yet. So you have to pick up the single copies.
So is that like your favorite aspect of the character? Is it the relationship with Hawkgirl or Hawkwoman, or?
With Hawkman, it's just there's not really one thing. I mean, there's just so many things that I like about the character. When I first started, reading Hawkman, that whole reincarnation, he's been going through history and all this wasn't really a big focal part of his story. But then Jeff Johns really brought that big time into the comics, and that I really enjoy that aspect about him, and all these past lives that he's had, and he remembers everything, or most of the things from his past lives. He remembers all the languages he learned how to speak, and all the fighting techniques, and just the character's knowledge is just vast, and he's just one of the most knowledgeable characters, and one of the best, I guess, combat fighters in the DC universe. I've read several places where they always kind of put Wonder Woman up there as a top combat fighter, but a lot of places have put Hawkman as number 2 because of just the experiences, knowledge that he's gathered over all of his lives. In the Jeff Johns series and in the Venditti series, there's been like one-shot issues that pick up one of his past lives. There was the one where he was a soldier in issue 13, and then in issue number 23, he was the pandemic doctor in Spain, and then Jeff Johns, he was a detective from the 1910s, I think. Just all these issues that just stories that you could pick up from Hawkman from anywhere in his past. That's fascinating to me. And as a writer, I would, if you ever got Hawkman, I think you'd be sitting on a gold mine, because you just got so many angles and stories and places and things you could pick up and make a story with. The Hawkman is be a great character for anybody to write.
One of the really cool things about Venditti's run is like he ended up kind of like Hawkman lived all these past lives, and it's all leading up to this moment. He had to go back and rediscover a lot of it. My favorite issue. Yeah, it's probably my favorite. Like when he goes to the microverse.
Yeah.
Finally discover his ship. Yeah. I just love the relationship between him and Adam, because they're just.
It's I've written an article about their relationship, just going through all their history and why they have such a strong relationship, and I think it's one of the most interesting and strongest friendships in the DC universe. And I think most writers, when they have a chance, they'll kind of throw that in there in a panel, or in Justice League or whatever. So it's always been kind of there. It's a great relationship.
Really enjoyed him kind of exploring that. And then obviously the finale, or not the finale, but issue 12, when you finally get the Deathbringer armies at Earth, and the culmination of all the lives that he's lived, and they all kind of come to back him up. Such a good issue with Brian Hitch on art.
That was well, the whole 12 issues, right from issue 1, when they had that double spread of Hawkman and all his past lives there on the double spread, they just blew me away. And I'm like, oh man, this is where he's going to take this. Then, it kept building up to that. He went to Thanagar, and he went to Egypt, and he went to Krypton, and he went to the microverse, and then finally, in the big finale, like you said, all those Hawkmen show up to fight the Deathbringers. I wish they would make a movie of that. That would just
Oh, yeah.
that would be awesome. Yeah.
One of the things one of my criticisms about the industry is I don't think many writers know how to end stories. Venditti certainly knows how to end a story. Just with that issue number 12, you get the breather with that excellent issue 13, and then the finale, where we finally see what the end result of Hawkman and Hawkwoman, and it's it's basically happily ever after.
Well, Venditti has a plan when he writes. I mean, the ending that we got in issue number 29, he said he had that ending in his mind long before he knew the series was going to end. And see, so he's always got a plan. He's always working towards that and filling in the pieces and everything. And he really doesn't usually drag out a story too long. With the first story, it went 12 issues, but I think in the
3 stories.
Yeah, but I think he was thinking that maybe Hawkman might end at number 12.
Mm-hmm.
And but then let's keep going. And like, okay, and so his next goal was to get it to 24, is what he said. And then and he said if any series gets to number 24, you're doing good. So I can't complain about what we got. He did a very good job, and he tied it all together very, very well. And the ending was just something that Hawkman and Hawkwoman have never been given before. A happy ending. So
they do die a lot. Obviously, it's kind of part of the character with resurrection, right?
I have a list on my blog of all their deaths. It just gets to be, it's just almost comical. Oh, they died again. Here, let me put this on this list. It's just what they do, whatever. I think if killing them off is the only thing you can think to do with them, then, maybe the writer wasn't meant to write Hawkman. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
It's run its course, that whole, I think for any superhero, really. I think the challenge now for a writer is not to destroy the character or, end it, but give it life and a continuation and something for the next writer to jump onto. I think that should be the challenge for any writer now.
So obviously, we've talked a lot about like Jeff Johns and Robert Venditti. Is there like one particular artist when you think of Hawkman and Hawkwoman or Hawkgirl, depending on the iteration, is there one artist that you think just nailed the character better than anyone else?
Well, number one's got a Joe Kubert. Yeah, that's Joe Kubert. It's just the way he. I don't know. There's something to his Hawkman that nobody was able to copy. Just the way he drew. The big difference between him and Murphy Anderson. Now, Murphy Anderson's really, really good too. But their eyes, the way he drew Hawkman's eyes, Murphy Anderson always just had just 2 black dots, just right there in the middle, and didn't really move that much. But with Joe Kubert, he seemed to have just more expression and more feeling and more angst to the character. It's hard to describe, but Joe Kubert is just, I think he's the one that created the true image of Hawkman that we have.
So is there like one page, like when you just through reading Hawkman, we're like, that's the greatest page of Hawkman art I've ever seen, or the greatest moment in the history of the character?
Oh gosh, I've never been asked this
question. Moment.
At the moment. Well, I just posted this on Twitter and Facebook about a couple hours ago. Back in 2001, when they finally brought Hawkman back, and he came into the Justice Society, the JSA series. David Goyer and Jeff Johns were writing it, and where Kendra's kind of transported to Thanagar, and all the the priest there asks her to walk up to this well of spirits where Hawkman is trapped. He's looking for the exit, but he can't find it. And she's kind of like a beacon. And so she walks up to this well of spirits right to the opening, and she sticks her hand out, and Hawkman's hand comes shooting out and grabs her hand. Yeah, and he comes out, and then the art by Steven Sadowsky again is fantastic. That one scene, I had been waiting for Hawkman to return for so long. It was rather emotional for me. Yeah, it was that is one of the best. And then, of course, I can probably list 5 or 6 scenes from the Venditti series again that really stuck with me. In the Shadow War of Hawkman, there's I don't want to give this story away, but in issue number 2, Hawkman and Hawkwoman are reunited, and he thought that she was dead, and they kind of go through a whole battle, and before they can really talk to each other and hug each other or whatever. And that one page where they just kind of and he's like disbelief that she's alive. That one page by Tony Isabella and Richard Howell. That was a great page. Yeah.
I'll be honest, as far as Hawkman goes, he's been really blessed. Like, for a character that they don't bring him out as a starring role all that often. He normally has a pretty damn good writer on him.
Yeah, I'd have to admit, he's had, Gardner Fox, and then went on to Tony Isabella, and then Tim Truman, and John Ostrander, and then Jeff Johns. And just so many. So many of the artists too. He's been a blessed character in that way. Yeah, definitely. A lot of the top guys have been writing him for a long time.
Me personally, I'd rather get tired of the character than just be sitting here waiting for the next time we're going to see him. What do you think? Like, what is the future for Hawkman? Obviously we see a lot of things happen at DC Comics. Are you expecting things? Do you think it's going to go quiet for a while? Are you optimistic?
Oh gosh. Well, if it was normal circumstances, maybe in a couple of years we would see another series. But does anybody know what's going on with DC right now? It's like, because I have no idea. And the whole what's the next? Was the Frontier?
Infinite Frontier.
Infinite Frontier. Well, that whole thing is the kind of starting to get released, but Hawkman and Hawkwoman are nowhere to be found in that yet.
I believe. I've been told now. Obviously, I've been told things that weren't exactly true before, but that there is going to be a JSA series. We've been told that for 5 years, but I've told in Infinite Frontier we will get a JSA.
Well, they've been used for cannon fodder for so long. It's like what's real and what's not, and what's what is going on with this team, and I also
see it was part of the plan, because if you read Doomsday Clock, that was like part of it. Like they were returned through when everything happened at the end of Manhattan.
But then what? What happened? It's like, okay, we're ready, let's go, and then nothing. So I'm tired of the tease, because the end of the Death Metal series also had a big Justice Society appearance. And usually when they do something like that, don't they like have a big announcement? Hey, they're coming back in April, new series. Nothing, So it's like they're just leaving us.
I've been talking about it on my channel actually before this, because this is going to come out on Friday for the anniversary. On Wednesday, I'm going to have my DC Comics 2021 forecast. I'm talking to Perch about it. We're like, they have the worst marketing. They get no information out. They let everyone else control the narrative and tell everybody else what's going on for them.
I don't know. JSA is the dangling carrot of DC Comics. They just keep it out there, and we keep following it, hoping that someday we'll finally get it, but not yet. But maybe once. I don't know. I would be surprised if there wasn't a JSA series, in the next year or two. But as
I'm
far
very hopeful it's Robert Venditti and it's JSA. I'm very hopeful.
Oh man, that would be fantastic. Robert Venditti writes a great team. I mean, his Freedom Fighters series was absolutely fantastic, and I just kept thinking he could do this with Justice Society. He could do this with Justice Society, and I think Justice Society is a better fit for him than Justice League. I enjoyed his Justice League series as well, but he just seems an old spirit. I don't know how to explain it, but he seems more in tune with that whole Justice Society family-oriented team instead of the cold. I wouldn't say Justice League is cold, but
obviously he did Hal Jordan, the Green Lantern Corps, which is a little bit more of a tighter family kind of book. He absolutely knocked that one out of the park. It's the same thing that you were talking about. He's always got things planned out. Things that were happening in like issue 5 are tied up in issue 50, but he wasn't stringing you along. He just reintroduced it later on. Like, oh, I remember that. Now it's being reintroduced as a big part of the finale. It was great.
Right. Yeah, he's very good at doing that. I mean, he's very structured, and I think everything he does has a reason and a purpose. So whenever I got, when a Hawkman issue came out, man, I scoured that thing 2 or 3 times, looking at the pictures and everything, and make sure I didn't miss anything. And a good example is when in issue number 26, when Hawkman and Hawkman finally defeated the Lord of the Void, that God entity appeared and said, okay, you have atoned for your sins. You will reincarnate no more. But then, I see you two want to be together. So I will give you this one last life, and you can live this together. And the years will be like days. And when I read that the first time, I just completely missed it. But instead of saying the days will be like years or whatever, he kind of switched it around. I get myself switched around. But anyway, he's telling them that they're going to live a really, really long life. And I missed that the first time. And then when the issue number 29 came out, and suddenly they're in the 40th century, and they're like, what? That was brilliant writing by him. He had that planned all along. You can't do that if you don't have a plan, and he had it. So kudos to him. He's a very good writer, one of the best.
Exciting stuff. I wish DC was probably doing something a little bit more to celebrate Hawkman's 80th anniversary, but it does not mean that we can't celebrate the great character and the history of the character, and the fact that we just had an amazing run on a Hawkman. Obviously, with Venditti, Jeff Johns' run was out there. I know you've always talked about, I believe the namesake of your blog, HawkWorld. I think it's a 3-part miniseries, right?
Right. 3-issue series, and then there was the HawkWorld series by John Ostrander that went 32 issues and 3 annuals. And then there was the Hawkman volume number 3, and that went about 33 issues. And then at the end of that series, which was in 96, DC just decided that Hawkman was too toxic to use, so they shelved him for 5 years. And back in, I can't remember when it was, 97, Grant Morrison, wanted to use Hawkman in his new Justice League series, but DC said, no, we just don't want to use Hawkman right now. And that's why that Angel Zariel character came out. Zariel, I think it is. He showed up in the JSA series as well. But yeah, so after that, then Jeff Johns came in and just totally rebuilt the character again. So that's what we got.
Yeah, hopefully we'll get something like that too soon. I hope we don't have to wait 5 years. I personally think we are going to get a Justice Society in the not too distant future. Hopefully written by someone very good. Tim, thank you so much for coming on here and just talking about Hawkman and what he means to you, how you discover the character. And like what you think is great about the character, some key moments. Is there anything else you wanted to say about Hawkman for his 80th anniversary before we kind of wrap up this conversation?
You know, Hawkman is a very diverse and interesting character, and you know, a lot of people always start out their Hawkman articles or interviews or whatever with Hawkman is the most confusing character in comics, you know, and everything. But you know, really, if you dive into the comics, there's all these different versions of Hawkman, but it's all one man. It's just one character who's lived all these different lives. And I hope everybody can pick up the Venditti series. It's absolutely fantastic. And if you want to find out more about where you can find Hawkman series, I've got the whole list of Hawkman comics on my blog.
There will be a link in the description of the video with some information on how to find it. Absolutely.
Yeah. So if you want to find out more about Hawkman comics, all the trades, what each trade has in each book, I've got it all listed. So feel free to come by. And again, I'm always on Twitter. So if you have a question about Hawkman, just throw me a question. I'll do my best to answer.
And if you see Hawkman, if there's a Hawkman sighting where you didn't expect to see it, make sure you tweet Tim Board with a picture and let's say, hey, we saw Hawkman today.
I'll give you a shout out on Twitter. Yeah.
All right, Tim, thank you so much for joining me today. This is a lot of fun, and I hope people enjoy talking about Hawkman and celebrating the character after 80 wonderful years.
Thank you very much. I had a good time.